Okay, everyone hear me now then?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so carrying on then. I have had some apologies for absence. Kerry Britton, Alex Hart had a sustained Froome meeting. Darren Giddings, Mike Smith, Deborah Richards, Ian Leake, Jenny Smith, and Nigel Harris. And Jeremy was sent some in when we were going to meet face to face, but I presume he's not here on the Zoom either. So just for anyone who doesn't know, just in the board of directors is currently myself, Susie Sims, Rupert Kirkham, Jeremy Westcott. We also have Patrick Abrahams on this meeting, and Patrick's involved with the Men's Shed organisation, and he's been helping out quite a lot since we got into trouble. And it was actually due to Patrick getting involved that we first found out that we were in trouble with Companies House. So Patrick's helped to put this meeting together. So you're going to hear from him in a minute. So as you know, during the various lockdowns, we closed the studio for pretty much a year. During that time, communications were seriously inhibited. There's basically two things that need to be sent into Companies House every year. There's the company accounts, and there's the thing called the confirmation statement. And unfortunately, last year we missed the confirmation statement. Now, the reminders were sent to the studio and were not opened. And so consequently, as a result, Froome FM's holding company, Froome Community Production CIC, was struck off and subsequently dissolved. Now, we immediately notified Ofcom of this, and as a result, as you probably know, we had to stop broadcasting on FM, as it's not possible to hold an Ofcom license without a holding company. We were still allowed to broadcast over the internet, which we did. Now, under normal circumstances, it would have cost about £300 to pay the relevant fines and fees to Companies House to re-establish everything. But unfortunately, during the process, it was identified that accounts were not submitted for the period June 2016 to 2017. And this incurred an extra £3,000 fine. Now, we did look at other options, starting another company, various things, but the reality is when a company is dissolved, its assets go to the Crown, and that includes any funds that it may have. So in the end, we made the decision that we would pay the fine. Now, it took 3 months and 3 attempts to get the application for restoration correct. So I had to send it off 3 times, but we finally managed to get it all correct on the 24th of February this year, and we started broadcasting on FM again on that evening, halfway through my radio show, actually. So we have since appealed the £3,000 fine. We have managed to track down some emails from previous members of the board who were directors at the time. I think Jeffrey's on this call, isn't he? So thanks for finding those emails, Jeffrey. So I've sent all that off. We've appealed the fine with Companies House, but you do have to appreciate that it's a very small percentage of appeals that are successful. And the appeals department are currently working 6 to 7 months behind. So even if we're lucky or we have any success, it's not going to be for at least 6 months. So done what we can there. So we are back up and running at the moment, but sadly we're not out of the woods. We have now got some quite serious financial problems, and we haven't paid Froome Town Council for our rent for 4 months. Now, I believe the reality is the business model has been flawed for several years, really, and Froome FM's only just sort of been keeping its head above water. If we hadn't lost £3,000, we'd be in a better position, but I do think we'd probably have limped through this year, and if nothing had changed, we'd probably be in a similar place where we are now this time next year. Just a few. I mean, as you know, everything's going up. You know, from your household bills, everything's going up. The rent on the studio has gone up 18 months ago, I think. They now charge us for electricity as well, which they didn't before. We're now paying charges on our bank account, which was previously free. The Frim Talking newspaper was quite a good source of income for us, and they're no longer making shows, so we've lost that. We haven't really had any regular paid advertising for years. It's extremely difficult to sell on-air advertising because they always want listening figures and things like that. The only show that has a sponsor at the moment is mine, and really member subscriptions haven't changed for since I don't know when, but years. So yeah, that's sort of where we are. We need to sort of address the business model really. Now, since we've been in panic mode, Rupert and Patrick have been looking into some grant applications, and we've had some success. I'm sure you're going to hear about that in a bit. But the reality is we can't really continue as we are. So that's what we're here to discuss tonight, really, what different scenarios are open to us. So just to outline what we've done in the short term, our Ofcom license runs out in June. That was always going to happen anyway. And we had to get an application in for a 5-year extension from this coming June. Now that had to be in December last year. Now we did get that in. So to make sure that option is open to us should we decide to go with it. So that is still an option if we decide to go with it. So that's all done. More recently, we've had some meetings with the town council and also with Spark Somerset. I haven't been on those meetings myself, but I'm sure the others will talk about that. The lease actually ran out on the studio on the 31st of March, which would have been the date this meeting was first going to happen, but it didn't. So what's happened actually at the moment with the town council put the money we owe them on hold, and we've now drawn up a short-term lease for 6 months at the same rates that we have been paying. So for at the moment, it's business as usual until the end of September, which has given us some breathing space. So really, what this meeting is about is deciding where we're going after that. So we had to do that really because we had to talk to you, the members, and sort of put it out there. So that's what we've done. We've sort of secured the studio and the current business model for Froome FM for 6 months. So that's where we are. So that's really what we're going to discuss tonight. If just one thing to say, I'll say it now rather than at the end because I just don't want to forget or anything. I would like to thank everyone who has offered to help or financially or otherwise. Thanks to Anthony Bird, who's made a significant donation. I think it's Nick Cottrell also has offered to help. Is he here tonight? And a few people offered to help during while the problems were going on. It's all been noted, and hopefully after tonight we'll have some better ideas about how we can share the load. But thanks for anyone who has offered to help. So that's really where we are. That's what we're here to discuss. Don't really want to get sidetracked from that sort of agenda really too much. So we'll see how we get on. But anyway, I think I'm going to hand over to Patrick now, who's going to talk about our financial position in greater detail. Is that correct?
Thanks, Julian. It's been a very tough couple of years, and I'd just like to thank all the people who continue to be making programs during these difficult times, and also your directors, which have done a hell of a job over the last 2 years as well. So thank you very much indeed to them. Now, I'm going to give you a quick status on finance, and as Julian said, we have some trouble. I mean, if you look at increased expenses over the last couple of years, the company's house penalty is £3,000. The studio rent has gone up by about £1,000 on average for the last couple of years. And the income has gone down by about £1,000. So right now, we also have a loan owing back from 2016, which is £3,000. So we have an impact of £5,000 to £8,000 right now, where we have debts and liabilities which we need to clear. But going forward, the situation is not quite the same, but you'll hear some other options going forward. If you look on the left-hand side, you'll see expenses per month. And I just wanted to make it kind of transparent. The rent is about £575 a month. Our music rights fees 150, Ofcom license 88, insurance 47, software 43, miscellaneous 15, which adds up to about £900 a month. And income on the right, 475 membership, £20 sponsorship. And new sponsors, we've got some new sponsors come in and a new grant. We've also got money from Mendic Lottery and Google Ads, which is 821, which gives us a shortfall of £100 a month. So we have to clear the £8,000 overhang, and then we need to move forward on a model which is actually sustainable. Now, we have got some grants and sponsorships reviewed and applied for, and well done Rupert, who deserves a round of applause for getting £1,500 through the door in the last 3 months. So well done, Rupert. He's also got a grant applied for with Open Mental Health grants, £2,000. I'm also applying to Hinkley Point C. I put in an application for £42,000, which they've wobbled a bit about, but I had a conversation with them yesterday, and they look like they'll support us to the extent of £5,000 anyway. We shall see. The Wainwright Futures Foundation, we've got an inquiry in with, and the Somerset Business Restart and Recovery Grant Programme has got an application in for about £9,000. There's other grants that have been reviewed and in progress. But as Julian said, the problem we've got is that we can't confirm the number of listening audience on FM, which is the #1 question from any potential advertiser. So going forward, we need to be fixing some of those kind of figures. Now, from a membership viewpoint, you recall that our membership is about £1,000 down on the year, and the annual figures for about the 54 members we've got is as follows for 2022, 5,500. And given that the expenses for the studio, etc., are in the region of £900 a month, I think we're going to have to be asking whether members will be prepared to pay more or get more members. We could do more members and more groups. We only have 6 groups at 150, and we could do with more of those. So some of the aspects that we're getting to will be around increasing the membership, and we'll come to that a bit later. But there are some other options which I think we're going to go into some detail on going forward. So Julian, if I could have the next slide. We could go internet only, and that would reduce the cost by £80 a month, which will still give us a shortfall. We could go to internet only in a new studio, and that would probably move us into surplus because the rent on the town hall is quite expensive. We could go with no studio, and that would give us a considerable surplus because we'd reduce the cost by over £500 a month. So there are other options as well, which I think Rupert's going to go into just now. But if there's any questions on the finance, then I'm happy to take them at the end, or if you want to put an item into chat, then I'm happy to reply to that or towards the end. So over to you, Rupert.
Right, I hope this doesn't set off a tsunami of sound again. Right, so basically we've got a studio which we use quite a lot. Does everybody hear me all right? Yeah. And as Julian said, the current license runs until the 22nd of June. But before that, we will obviously need to know from Ofcom whether they're going to give us an extension license. We've replied for that, as Julian said, and we still haven't heard from them. So, don't hold your breath on that one. Our key commitments are clearly the same as they were, right back at the beginning. We haven't changed those. We still want to provide a local service with a local sound to suit all age groups. We want to reflect the strong foundation that we have as a creative industry and so on. We want it to be a creative outlet. We want to support community organisations. We want to do programmes for and by children. We want to do lots of music shows, and some of them will be local ones. And we want to do music and speech programs to promote the local arts scene. And we're still sticking to the 70-30 music to speech ratio, and we still want to produce a 24/7 service. So as far as we're concerned, you may have different ideas, and we'd love to hear those. But as far as we're concerned, nothing has really changed as far as what the station's here to do. Now, the station studio is the thing that costs the most money. And so I just put a few pros and cons together to just reinforce how that sits with, well, me, really, I suppose. It's a community hub. I mean, I know that doing a show, I'm only doing it every 2 weeks now, but when we have people in the studio, lots of people meet each other sometimes for the first time, and they stick together. They talk to each other after the show. It's a resource for training all of us. It doesn't have to be a studio to do the training, but of course, if you're training people to work in a studio, then it has to be a studio. But if you're just training people to make radio through portable equipment and home studios, you don't really need a studio to do that. We have had some very successful work experience programs for local schools, and I can see a situation where we may be able to monetize that for schools outside our area, but that's just conjecture at this point. Obviously, it's a production resource which a lot of us use, and you've got a quality equipment, access to a quality system, which is well maintained by Terry. Obviously, the studio gives us access to a transmission desk, so we can switch to the transmitter, the playout, and the internal system. So we need somewhere to house that if we don't have a studio. And there are other possibilities like resourcing it as a podcast studio for other people to use. We could make a small rent per hour for that, possibly, or radio commercials or external training courses. I know that Summer Valley FM, for example, has pretty much got Bath and North East Somerset under its belt as far as training people in media courses is concerned. And they run the courses, but Summer Valley runs the studio for them. So there's possibilities to monetize it there. And obviously, for sponsored training programs, you can go wider than just local schools. You can go to organizations, especially youth organizations, who seem to get most out of it, like the YMCA, the Prince's Trust, D&D Awards, and so on. And potentially also the DWP, to give people perhaps a little bit more experience with interviewing, maybe, online interviewing as well. So all things that we could possibly offer to get some money in for the studio. And then obviously we haven't tried very hard to get the local authorities involved, but they have given us quite a lot of money over the last 2 years to hold public service, to run public service announcements for them. They've been paying us on average about £100 a month for that. So that's been a very useful piece of income. And that doesn't rely on the studio, but of course, if you've got a studio, it helps. But local authorities would probably respond to us applying, to us offering the studio for them to come and do one-day courses on handling the media and other things like that. So it seems to me there is a lot of potential to use that studio. However, it does cost us, as Patrick said, £528 a month plus utilities. And with the rate that utilities are going up now, it could be over that by the end of the year. And the other thing is, the other con really is that if we were to move the studio, we've got to build another one somewhere, and we've got to put this one back to the way it was, and that's not going to be cheap. if anyone's got any comments about the studio now, it would be a good time perhaps to discuss it. We don't want to pile up too many things to discuss, but has anyone got any strong ideas about that?
Right, Phil wants to speak.
Hi, everybody. So I was looking through your presentation on the pros and cons of studio retention. From my point of view, you don't have a Froome FM unless you've got a studio. It's the centre of what any broadcasting organisation is all about. If you don't have the studio, then you're just a whole bunch of people who sit in their bedrooms doing internet broadcasting, effectively.
I totally agree with on that. We need a hub, we need a central place. One of the comments were, whilst I maintain the equipment, some of the equipment is coming to the end of its useful life. The mixing desks, there's several channels dropping out. It's very difficult to get the bits for it now, and the little one agrees as well. Desks aren't that expensive. I suppose for about £3,000 we could replace both the desks, but just to be aware that some of the hardware has seen its day. That's it.
Hi, Terry, it's Phil again. I think
Hi, Phil.
that, as you know, a lot of that hardware had seen its day when we had it refurbished back in 2008 or something. Again, I'm probably speaking out of turn, but from my point of view, I would say that one of the key drivers over the next sort of period should be to review the technical kit required to support whatever a new refreshed version of Froome FM looks like, whether it be internet or on FM, and then drive forward in order to raise the money to fit out the studio with the right kit that will keep the whole thing going for the next 10 years. Because I mean, you know, the stuff that we put in originally, it was secondhand when we got it. We got it refurbished, but it was secondhand 20 years old or longer when we got it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the cost of the likes of the consoles now are fairly cheap relative to the Alice desks that we had. You can get one that would suit our needs for probably 3,000 quid with everything in, from digital telco to even onboard recording facilities and everything. So the infrastructure we've got is quite archaic, although it works, yes, and you know, and I'm not going to knock it, it works, but you get that edge, you know, when you're touching the faders and that, you can hear the noise of the faders and hear the headphone amplifiers producing a lot of background noise. So it is coming to the end of its life, and there's nothing we can do about it. There's one guy who's got the rights to repair and has all the diagrams, and you can't get the bits anymore. We've even tried. I mean, Martin Moss, my friend, who's also helps out, we've even repaired stuff to component level in the channel strips and power supplies when they went. So, you know, it is getting to the point where even I can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd be looking at, in a couple of years' time, it's going to be unsustainable. You know, no matter how bad it is now, another year or two's time, it will just be totally unsustainable.
Yeah, I totally agree. Anyway, I can't really say any more on the studio, I think.
Okay, Ant had something to say, I think.
Oh, no, just exactly everything that everyone's been saying on the chat as well. The studio is essential. Otherwise, you know, we can just go and set up our own Mixcloud accounts, our own YouTube accounts, and like Phil says, just be people playing in our bedrooms. No point. So absolutely with the studio, absolutely agree with, you know, I agree it's going to cost money, but we got to move on. That's the whole point of Froome FM.
I mean, I'd like to say that I do agree the studio is is probably our most valuable asset because it's a hub and people see it as a meeting place. And because it's in the town hall, we meet all the other people who are in the town hall, and we have a very close working relationship with the council. However, that hasn't meant we can have free rent, although they have done an enormous amount to help us out here, and I would like to point that out. And I'm sure they're going to bend over backwards to keep us in there because I think it's good for them.
It's Alistair here, and I recognise, I guess, that I'm quite new to this, but I guess my observation is everybody seems to be very happy and wants to continue with the studio, and I get that, but I also wonder whether or not the purpose of Froome FM and how that's achieved needs to be reviewed, because it seems to me as though until you address that fundamental question, you can't then really work out how you're going to provide for that. And if you just heard that the studio over a period of time isn't going to be fit for purpose, we're already talking about a loss for the past year or 2 years as a result of different issues. But if there's a shortfall of income, then unless we really know what we're going to do, why we're going to do it, then we can't really understand how we're going to do it. And at the moment, my concern, I suppose, is that if we don't have that sort of fundamental review of what Froome FM is all about and how it's going to deliver that, all we're doing is putting a sticking plaster over a situation which needs, to my mind, a more fundamental review and actions off the back of it.
Can I just answer that a little bit? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think, as somebody pointed out earlier, either Julian or Rupert, what Froome is all about doesn't really change, regardless of whether we have FM or internet only. We have a really comprehensive list of things that we're about. And I think those don't change. It's about education, it's about community, it's about involvement, it's about mental health. I mean, all of these things are quite well documented. And I think maybe what we need to do is just refresh that. I don't think it's missing.
No, that might be so, Helen. But I guess from my recent point of view and coming at it afresh and what I've done in the past, it just seems to me as though unless we have that clarity or focus, then we can't really. I don't see we can move forward from that when we consider that everything you've talked about is admirable, but at the moment it's coming at a cost, and that cost I don't think can be sustained going forward without everybody understanding what that cost is and how it's going to be funded. Because I don't know whether or not it's feasible to expect sponsorship of shows or more members or increasing membership fees. That to me just seems as though it's just a holding position until something else comes along, which means it's got to be reviewed.
Anybody else got anything to say on that?
Yeah, if I may.
Anthony.
Yeah, just to add on to what Helen was saying, I think the point of Froome FM, from when I joined it back in 2014, was that Froome as a town itself is a major cultural hub in this land. It's not a big town, but it sure as hell throws its weight. It punches way above its weight in terms of its cultural significance. The Froome Festival, the cheese and grain, the whole vibe, the farmers market on a Sunday, the whole thing. Froome is a thing, and I always regarded Froome FM as being part of that, in addition to and an extension of it. It projects, if you like, if you want to use the international expression, it projects power for Froome, and that the idea that we have a range of programs that a lot of other stations simply don't have. We've got cutting edge music, we've got brilliant presenters, And there is a very significant purpose to it because we're Froome and we're Froome FM, and that means something. You know, that is our purpose. So, and you know, in terms of cost, yeah, there are significant costs coming down the way, and it may be that, you know, at some point we may have to change. But I think the point's been made already tonight that there is a significant shortfall of £100 a month that needs to be caught up with, and I dare say that, you know, our programs are not going to be easily sold as sponsored items. And, you know, as someone who I used to work with on Radio Oddstock down in Salisbury once said to me, you know, you can't get to play on the shiny toys without paying for it. And, you know, there may be some hard decisions that we have to take as individuals about what our financial commitment to Froome FM is going to be going forward. Of course, we can apply for grants, we can ask people for money, we can do fundraisers, but fundamentally, we have to look to ourselves in the first place, in the first instance, for that commitment to keep that studio open, because this is Froome, we are Froome FM, and it's not we do not want to be a disparate group of individuals just sending on our shows. I mean, and I say that from someone who does that from his home in Scotland. So, you know, let me be the first, but I do it for Froome FM rather than just set up my own Mixcloud channel, which I could very easily do, because you're a community enterprise and a community hub and you stand for things that I believe in, right? And that's important. So thank you.
Right, it's Bill again here. Sorry to keep interfering and what have you. So Helen mentioned earlier about, if you like, the core values, and I agree with Helen. I don't think the core values have changed since, you know, since we started the whole project off all those years ago. And I think that what some of the people that have been talking, Anthony just now, and sorry, I can't remember the name of the chap before, I think that we could all agree that those core values are still valid and are still relevant. What has changed to some degree is something that, again, I can't remember if it was Rupert or somebody else who mentioned, whether or not FM is relevant or whether internet broadcasting is as good, if not better. You know, so if I wind the clock back to when we started this whole thing off, before we had an FM license, we could only do internet broadcasting. And that was in the days when you had to go out and buy an app on your phone in order to be able to listen to things. In the days when the concept of the podcast was so new that people didn't know what you were talking about when you were talking about it in the street. And now it's mainstream. Now, I live in Wootton Bassett, and so whenever I listen to any Froome FM, I have to listen to it on the internet. I listen to it via my phone in the car. And I suspect that if we all sat down to try and figure out where our audience is, quite a significant proportion of it does it through the internet. So my question, I suppose, is how much value does FM bring, bearing in mind that you have to have the corporate structure in place, which some people find off-putting if they've got to become directors of a company in order to deliver it. And secondly, you are bound then to fulfill Ofcom's kind of rules, and not so much over broadcasting itself, but over the ratio of content and the kind of community brief that they insist that you evidence every year to substantiate your position. Personally, I think that there's not so much value in that now, and maybe we think or thought that there was more value in it when we originally went for the license back in the, I don't know, whenever it was, 2012. But I think nowadays, why do we need it? When the internet gives you a much wider community, and a significant proportion of our audiences are already using it.
Shall that is actually the
jumping ahead to a subject that's going to be discussed at
Right,
length.
well, was going to bring
well, we're not all going to be here for much longer, I would imagine, because, you know, how long is this meeting going to go on for?
Okay, let's just move on
that
then.
now.
Can Matt just make a quick comment? Matt, what did you want to say?
Yeah, sorry, I just want to make a quick comment. I remember last time we renewed our license, And there was a big debate then on whether or not to keep the FM. And we said that we were going to keep it, we were going to reapply, but that we needed to have a serious think about it in 5 years' time. Well, here we are in 5 years' time. And we think nowadays, radio isn't just FM anymore. I think with Freem FM, where is the place that really people listen to FM? And that is in a car, maybe still. But the Freem FM range is so small that you're only ever going to get Freem people listening to it on Freem in Freem on their cars. So you're not going to get the people passing through, which you will get from an online station or a DAB station, because the range is so much bigger. So I think we are at the point now where we're 5 years down the line from when I last said I think we wanted to keep FM, and I'm not even convinced myself anymore whether or not we want FM.
Yeah.
Okay, can we move on?
Can I come in? Can I come in a second? Steve here. I agree with what Phil was saying, but surely if you remove the FM from Freem FM, it's going to jeopardize any potential sponsorship from local businesses, because they're going to be talking to people in Freem.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people still, yes, they listen to the station in the car, but also at home. They turn the radio on like I do. And in that sense, perhaps we're sort of shooting ourselves in the foot if we do that.
Yeah. Can I say something? Rupert, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I produce a music show that's local, and it's local musicians who don't have another outlet. And it goes further than Freem. And that's good for them. And I think really the listening population are going more towards the internet, as I am too. It's such a narrow range, the FM now. I think we've got to do it a little bit differently. I agree we should have a studio hub for some things, but I do agree with Phil at the moment, and I'm going to stick with my guns on that one. I know Summer Valley have got a different model to us, but they have a building that the school thinks, I think it's donated to them. We haven't got that sort of, advantage. So I think we've got to think carefully where we're going now. And I would go along with Phil on this. And I think if I try to listen to FM, I can't get it sometimes, even in Freem. So,
right.
It's past it, really.
Thanks, Chris. I think we really do need to move on. That is a very valuable point. I think it seems to me that what people are saying here is that we do want to keep the studio, and we do want to keep methods of communication open if they don't cost us very much money. In point of fact, Ofcom's FM license only costs us £850 a year. It costs us £650 a year, and there's £200 for a wireless transmission license, something. Anyway, it's just under £1,000 a year to keep the FM signal going. I think we do want to keep the studio, so we've got to fund that. And so let's just go through very quickly what we put together about internet radio station, which I think is mostly been covered. You get a complete coverage for anyone who's listening, clearly, and not just in this town. If you go with an internet-only radio station company, they will provide quite a lot of what it costs us to do. They will provide a phone app, which arguably is quite important if we're going to go online. And it would be an Android and an iPhone app. There's no Ofcom involvement because they don't regulate, as Phil said, they don't regulate internet radio yet. There's promotion available by the company that you go with. Internet radio costs could be as low as £60 a month for the hosting fees. You still have to pay some PRS fees, obviously, and there's about £45 worth of other miscellaneous stuff. So costs of an internet station are quite low, but if you keep the studio, then it doesn't make much difference really, because you're still paying for the studio. However, there is a proposal that's been sent to us, and I said I would raise it at this meeting about the SSDAB, which is small scale DAB. There's a company called Wilts Radio CIC who have approached us, and they have a proposal for us, which I would have gone through tonight, but I think it's probably too complicated. However, the bottom line is they have pretty much inferred that they would do all the regulatory work, that they would locate the transmitter, preferable site for the transmitter. They would do advertising. They would sell the spare space on their channels to other people, which could possibly even bring money in for the people who have joined as community stations. They will underwrite the license fees and the transmitter costs, and they will do most of the compliance work. So there's quite an interesting proposition there. It gets us, as I'll show you in a minute, a little bit further across the county and into Wiltshire as far as coverage is concerned. The only thing they need right now, and I said I will mention this, is £125, in fact, for the 4 stations that are in their mix, which is Warminster, Devizes, us, and one other which I can't remember at the moment. I think it might be Melksham. Anyway, to apply for the license, which costs £500. If they can apply, if they get the license, then they've pretty much implied that it will be £1,000 running costs, which they will underwrite per annum. However, if one station drops out, the others have to pick up any costs that are there. So it's not plain sailing, but I just thought I'd mention it. I'll show you now that I had put this down for Terry, but I'm going to show you anyway. This is our coverage map for Froome FM. And the pink bits are where you can really get it. And the green bits, mostly occupied by cows, as far as I can make out, are where you can get it if you've got a radio. And I don't know too many cows with radios, but FM radios anyway. So the coverage is pretty lousy. If you look at the possible coverage for small scale DAB, that goes up to Chippenham in the north, slightly east of us, southeast of us really, and also across to Maiden Bradley and around there. That's our possible coverage, which is going to reach apparently 153,587 people, as opposed to 30,000. So whatever you think of that. Yeah.
Rupert, Sheila's in the waiting room waiting to get in.
Sheila?
Yes.
I thought she'd been in.
I don't know. I think she dropped back out again. If you go back to the Froome FM one of the reasons for the problems we have with transmitting outside, if you look down towards Mells and right the way down the bottom end, down to Adderwell and places like that, even in Froome, you can't pick it up. The transmitter base is at 110 meters, plus to add the Memorial Theatre height. There is nowhere in Froome higher, only Eggford is the only other high part. And as you can see in the northeast area, it's all out to Rudge, fields in Rudge. We're not picking many people aren't actually hearing it. Purple means 64 dB, which you can pick it up indoors. The green, you probably get some breakout, the stereo falling out and everything else like that in those areas. These maps were done by Ofcom. They drove around the area and produced them from signal strength meters. And if you look down to the southeastern area as well, there's nobody there. There's nobody actually living there. The DAB again, if you go to DAB map, a lot of it is heavily towards the Wiltshire end, whereas towards the south and western end of the map we are still on the fringes of that. If you look where Frome is on that map, but it is a big improvement. That's all I need to say.
Thanks. Thank you, Terry. Okay, so any comments on that before we move on? Because I know the time is moving on.
Very quickly, I put in the comments. I've made a lot of comments on email. I think the DAB idea is very interesting and is worth exploring. I think we lose something if we don't broadcast. If we're only internet, we lose something. But the DAB is a very interesting option from that point of view. And that's talking to the artists that want to appear on my show, most of whom are, well, a lot of them are within that DAB area. So that's quite an interesting idea that we get to broadcast over a bigger area.
Can I say something also? I wondered also that was the government not thinking about getting rid of FM at some stage?
Yes.
And that they wanted to go towards DAB anyway. There was talk about that a couple of years ago. And so maybe DAB is the way to go anyway, just be ahead of the game. I think a lot of cars might even be getting rid of FM. I know my car's only got DAB.
Anybody got a comment on that?
Yeah, Norway has already lost the FM spectrum, and the FM spectrum itself is a very lucrative band for other things. So I think eventually, as people migrate to DAB, internet radio, I think the UK, and it won't be in the next 5 years, they're going to give you 5 years notice and then 5 years to implement it, exactly the way they did with digital television. They started at Whitehaven because it was surrounded by hills. I think it will disappear. It's got a limited lifetime, but I would imagine at least 10 years.
Not yet.
Okay.
Okay, so can we?
Can I just add something on the DAB thing? So if I wind the clock back quite a long time ago, in the early days of DAB, something like this was being talked about for a bunch of other more commercial stations, and we tried to muscle in on that, and they didn't want to know. If this is now becoming an option that is possible, I think that this is definitely the direction to look at. You know, keep the internet as well, but this gives you a far bigger, far better option going forward into the future if you can get into this sort of collective DAB solution.
That is, if DAB continues to move. It's got a bit static recently, but I mean,
well, DAB's had a lot of bad press for a few years, didn't it?
Well, it wasn't very good to start with.
Exactly. It was
plus
overhyped.
Yeah. But they've improved it. I mean, they have upspec'd it in the last 5 years. So I think it is better. I mean, I think the truth of the matter is we want it all, don't we? We want as many people as possible to get what we're doing, because that's how we're going to get income, and that's how we're going to get people liking what we do, or at least listening.
But Rupert, I mean, I have a question about a DAB on across 8 locations. I mean, surely we'd just pick up 3 hours a day, wouldn't we?
No, I think once you hook into the channel, you keep it wherever you are. I don't think you would move out of an area if it's within that coverage area.
The way that it works is that each station is multiplexed on top of the other, and you just choose whichever station you want. So like all the BBC stations come in one block, and as you drive from Melksham, Devizes, Trowbridge, you can have Warmster FM, you could have Frome FM, you could have Devizes, or whatever other stations you want. You would stay with that station. You wouldn't necessarily migrate out of that station into Frome FM. Very similar to the way that Heart Radio works.
I don't think anyone's going to disagree that DAB's not a nice to have, but obviously it's more expense again, and our current problem is paying for what we already have. But I mean, one of the issues with FM is that it ties us to the town hall, doesn't it? Because we have to be in sight of the aerial. Would that still be the case with DAB with it?
Well,
they take it off the internet. They would take that signal off the internet. That's right, isn't it, Terry?
Yes, that's right. And also now, because of the way the digital infrastructure works now, you could technically, providing you provided a computer in the gods of the theatre that was connected to our internet connection, you wouldn't need to be tied to the town hall. All you would do is pick up the Froome FM stream and broadcast that through a processor into the transmitter array.
Right. Okay, we need to move on now, I think. As everybody, I would just say that if anybody is desperately keen to talk about SSDAB, I'm happy to do that after this meeting or tomorrow. But I do have to give them a feel for whether we're interested in putting up a director as part of the CIC that they're proposing. And if that's somebody that's not a director yet and would like to get involved, I think we should talk to you as well. So tomorrow, if you're still interested in this, do give me a call, since I seem to be the main liaison for this DAB thing.
Okay, so sorry, Rupert, I have to go now. I'm sorry about that. But
yeah,
Steve's there, but he'll double vote if there's anything.
I don't know we're voting actually. I think also if you can send any feedback, from this, what we've taken away from this meeting, it would be really lovely to have that. And we'll do some sort of report at the end of it.
Yeah.
What have I said?
Thanks very much. Cheers, everybody.
If I can just interrupt, I'm afraid I'm going to have to go as well. So
yeah, all right, Lisa, thank you so much, and we'll just crack on for as long as people want to stay. So Patrick was going to move on with the next.
Okay, I'll move on. I don't have radio detailed understanding of DAB, FM, etc., etc., etc. So obviously you have to make decisions about what happens next. And my proposal would be that you actually move to some kind of formal proposition for members to vote on what we do for going forward. But this is a suggestion that we have that says we publicise an appeal for funds to be broadly distributed throughout Froome and the surrounding area, which includes requests for individuals that can provide pro bono admin, legal and finance support to Froome FM, and requests for members to volunteer to assist in the administration and promotion of Froome FM and its value to the community. And with regards to the value to the community, if you go to the next slide, if you remember when we renewed or applied for the renewal of the Ofcom license, we emailed people throughout the organisation, and we got 50 people came back without being nagged, saying some wonderful things about Froome FM and their contribution to the Froome community, which is along the lines that Anthony was talking about earlier. And so the proposal, there's two suggestions, two inputs, one from the council and one from the medical centre, which were really, you guys should be very proud of how your community feels about the programmes and Froome FM generally. Terrific feedback, I thought that was. So what the proposal is that we appeal for funds to be broadly distributed throughout Froome and the surrounding area. The Times, the Standard, Nub News, etc. We're going to be contacting 100 movers and shakers in Froome and the surrounding area, looking for a replacement treasurer and a legal advisor, and also considering to invite key people to act as Froome FM advisory board members to sit alongside the board. And so really an appeal out to the organisations across Froome. And we have 4 requests to members, I think. One is to promote the appeal on your own networks and your own social media. And obviously we'll be distributing more information about the appeal going forward. Go for sponsorship, just ask for sponsorship. Rupert's done a great job in terms of sponsorship so far. You can obtain sponsorship for the radio station, and you can do that even without knowing what the listening figures are. We're looking for volunteers to assist in the administration, and we are going to have to undertake Ofcom training for all volunteers on compliance because of some of the compliance issues that we've hit over the last 2 years. So I'd ask you to please, if you join on Zoom meetings, we'll be issuing some stuff on that. The administration, there's all kinds of stuff about equipment, loan management, secretarial work, bookkeeping, correspondence, Companies House, PRS reporting, etc., etc. We're also looking for a treasurer. So if you know a treasurer that can do it for free, pro bono, and a legal advisor. And also, I know these times are tough, but we're considering a membership fee increase to plug that gap between where we are today and where we go in future. So it's really a publicity process to get out to people in the community and broader, to appeal for funds and for support.
Thanks, Patrick. Patrick's done a fantastic amount of work on this, so I'm really pleased with the way it's gone in terms of a direction. But what we really need too, and I think Julian would agree with me here, is we need more directors. We need more people to support what we're doing here and take the burden off us, because we've been running this thing with about 4 people for 2 years now, and I tell you, we're all knackered. So we need your expertise, we need your ideas, and we need you to actually get your hands dirty a bit if you can. I know it's not easy, and I know some people really don't want to do that, but some people need to. So if you can help, please do.
Yeah, thanks, Julian.
I don't know whether, Julian, you want to talk to these, but these were a few things I just put together at the end of the day, which I think most of which we've talked about.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, personally, I would think we would get. They wouldn't stop us having a license as long as we. I mean, I've had some sort of personal dealings with Ofcom now. Both Ofcom and Companies House over the last few months, and if we tick all the boxes, I don't think they say no, but I could be wrong. But anyway, it's our decision. But yeah, I mean, we need your guidance. So really, I'm not. I just want everyone to be happy. I'm not trying to push us one way or another. What we can't afford to do is have this meeting, throw some ideas around, and then just sit around for 6 months and wait for the short-term lease on the studio to run out and then be stuck again, you know, in a mess. We've really got to move on this. And I know every Froome FM meeting there's ever been, we've been asking for help, but you know, those things Rupert read out earlier, you know, ways we could earn extra money by training people, training third-party companies and all that stuff. I mean, that's absolutely fine, but it needs people to do it. And you know, even fundraising things, every fundraising thing I've been on for Froome FM is like the same 4 or 5 people, and it's just we just can't sort of carry on like that, really. So we've really got to, you know, I'm not saying we're going to make a decision tonight. We just got to, but we need to move, and we need to have a procedure by which we make a decision and move over the next few weeks, really. Because I know how these things go. The temptation is to sort of get the meeting out of the way and then shelve it and wait till the last minute, but we can't do that this time. So yeah, we need your input, we need your guidance. Of course, it's going to be difficult to keep absolutely everyone happy. I suppose if we can afford everything, DAB, FM, studio, I mean, that's the ideal scenario. But what I don't, it's great applying for grants, fantastic, and well played to Patrick and Rupert who've sort of jumped in and been doing that. But I don't believe we should sort of run the business model on relying on getting that every single year, because you know it just puts so much pressure on, doesn't it? If every year you're relying on getting £3,000 or £4,000 of grants in. So really we need something that breaks us even as a sort of internal business model, I suppose. So yeah, I mean that all the things we talked about, that's really what we need to make a decision on. So it's basically do we carry on with Ofcom and FM? Do we look into DAB? We could perhaps do with seeing some of that. What did we get the costs of the DAB going forward, Rupert, or was it just the initial thing we saw there?
I can.
Perhaps we could need that information put down somewhere so people can.
I've got a presentation, but it's there are a lot of people trying to get you to commit to being part of the DAB thing. So this is a group called Muxnet, and they're in Bristol. historically done community radio stations, that's where that's what they're interested in. So they've done various Bristol ones. So I think that they're probably the best people for us to go with. And I would encourage you. I will send round their presentation, but don't give it to anybody else, because it's a bit secret. But I mean, the costs, they have basically said, bottom line, it won't cost you anything once we've got the license.
Yeah, nothing's free though, is it?
Can I just suggest that there's been a lot of things discussed tonight, some of which are consequential upon other decisions that might come out. But I don't think that how we have this meeting running at the moment is a good way of making a decision. Would it be a good idea to distill the half a dozen key decisions that need to be made, maybe with a couple of lines of supporting text, which could be emailed out to members so then they could just vote yes or no? And then you've got a mandate then that tells you what the majority of the membership that want to respond, what their point of view is. And then from there, you can then build the programme to deliver that.
Yeah, it sounds a good idea.
I'm happy with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds good, that Phil.
By
the way, I would like to know where to send my feedback to. Would it be to you, Julian, or to Rupert on this meeting?
Either really, but I mean, I share. I mean, I'm part of my everyday jobs for Froome FM.
You don't want to get bombarded with too much, but yeah.
So, I mean, actually, just a spurious question. One thing I've sort of taught myself to do is do the newsletter, but I haven't really been putting newsletters out. It's been just invitations to this meeting, really. But I mean, is that a good way to communicate with people? Generally, you know, for things like this, or just you know, because I'm happy to do that. I know some of you are on Facebook, but not everybody. So is that generally work for everybody?
That's fine. We've got Jeffrey and Sheila want to say something, guys.
Yeah. What I'd like to say is it's not enough for us to say this is what we'd like to do. We have to commit to working towards it. And most of it is to do with money. We need every show to be getting either a sponsor or a new member. We all should have a target. It's not enough to just hand it over to the directors, because that's what we failed to do in the past, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it would be difficult. I think that might, if we have to get a sponsor for every show, that might curtail a number of shows and a number of creative shows. I think be a member of Froome FM and to have a show should require you to pay a membership fee, and that fee should reflect the true cost of running the station. I think that's just my view.
Yeah, but if you could get a sponsor.
Yeah, no, happily, if we could.
We're not going to shut you down if you don't have a sponsor. It's just that we need to be aware that that's a way of generating some income. And if you can generate £20 a show across a year, then that's 240 quid, you know.
No, sure, if you can, yeah, quite, of course.
Or a new member. I think maybe
or another member,
we have to have a choice. You either raise an extra X amount of money or you pay extra membership. That way it gives people a bit of flexibility.
Right. Any more?
Yeah, anyone else? Any other points then?
I'll drop you a line separately, Rupert, with one or two ideas.
Okay.
Yeah, we like ideas.
Could I just say, can you capture the chat? Because there was quite a lot in the chat.
Yeah, save chat. Yeah.
There was, and thanks for doing that.
Yeah.
And we'll use that as part of the feedback.
Can I just, I mean, it sounds like you're winding the meeting up. I just wanted to say that a lot of the anti-FM people seem to have been the ones with the loudest voices in tonight's meeting. And they almost seem to be arguing that, FM is something that is preventing us from, preventing us from going down the DAB route, and in some way preventing us from continuing on the internet. I mean, I'm very, very pro staying on FM. I think it's one of the things that makes our station wonderful and accessible, and that's the key thing. Doubtless it's because of my age profile, but quite honestly, I mean, I listen to Froome FM only because I can get it on FM. If I'm just listening to it casually, I'll listen to it on FM. Actually, going on the internet to seek it out is an effort, and I think there's a lot of people in the town who are like me. They've just got FM sets knocking around the house, and if you take away our FM presence, then you're effectively taking away our audience in an awful lot of cases. And that's not to say that a lot of people that I know who, for example, listen to my show, I mean, most of them, probably the majority, listen to it on catch up, but that's not the issue. It's the listening to Froome FM on a casual basis, not when you're listening for a specific show, but just having it on in the background. For example, at Patrick Moss's dentist. If we lose FM, we're losing that audience, and I appreciate that we don't have any way of measuring it. I think probably there have been surveys in the past, but it's very, very difficult to tell who is actually listening on FM. I've said to Rupert and to Julian, I'm happy, if it's basically 850 a year, I'm happy to meet that. I mean, it's basically £70 a month, and that's given that I don't have a Netflix subscription, I don't have a mobile phone contract, it's not a lot of money for me anyway. So I'll just say that.
Thank you, Nick.
Very kind of you.
Thank you very much for that. Yeah.
I don't have any more to say really, except that I do think that we've always had a very low rate of, I mean, we've had a very small budget to run this thing on, and I don't think we've tried hard enough to get larger budgets. I may be wrong, but it's been going a long time now, and I think we've got a bit into a mindset which says, we only need £12,000 to live on, so let's only try and get that. And I do think, I don't entirely agree with people saying that we shouldn't get grants, because I think grants are available to subsidize community operations like this. And I think if we can find them, we should get them.
Just one more. I don't want to keep. Just one more question about the DAB. If you did go for DAB, do you not get FM for free then, because you've still got the Ofcom license?
No, you have to. You technically have to have an FM station to get the DAB that they're talking about. I did ask them that at one point. It wasn't a clear answer, but I think it relies on you having FM.
Right. Okay.
Even though they will take the signal from your online presence.
Can I also just point out that I joined Froome FM in 2015, and as far as I know, the membership subscription has not gone up at all in 7 years.
No.
Correct me if I'm wrong about that.
Hasn't.
And I think I think we need to ask, certainly for those who can afford it, those who aren't students, for example, those people who are in full-time employment can afford more. I would say, and I think we can do that.
Totally agree. We have to.
I agree too.
If we can get, sponsorship on top of that, fantastic. If we can get advertising in on top of that, fantastic. But it starts with us. If we're not prepared to put our money where our mouth is, we can't expect other people to.
So is that what we should be taking away from this meeting, is that for a start, we need to increase the membership subs and to do it from now.
Can I just suggest, I think I already overpay because I pay more than the membership is for a year.
Yeah.
And most of the organisations I'm a member of, I'm tempting fate here because I tend to end up being the chairman of most of them as well eventually, have a donate option whereby you can overpay. They actually ask you, would you like to overpay? And a surprising number of members do.
Yeah.
Because they value what the organisation does. So we might knock it up, say 5%, 10%, but I think just putting and would you like to give us a bit more on however we ask for the money wouldn't be a bad idea. The other is I have sent Rupert a message in the middle of this meeting, which I'll now put out publicly. I wasn't going to, but I used to sponsor a show because I actually run a business in Frome, and I ought to be doing it again. So certainly I'll be willing to put that up, but I think we all need to go out and find sponsors, or collectively, not all of us, because a lot of us may not know people who own businesses. But when we've actually got a business in our own ranks, me, and I'm not sponsoring, something's wrong. So I'm going to.
But especially as you are getting an ad going out about 10 times a day.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I haven't been paying for it. So it does need to,
right,
I need to start paying for it. Yeah.
We've got you there then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I mean, you know, an optional, certainly an optional way request to pay more, but you know.
What I get from this is that from Rupert's comments about needing to have an FM present to move forward with the DAB, should we not, for the foreseeable future, to at least we find out whether or not the DAB is moving forward, and if we had the sponsorship to the costs of staying on FM met by one of our very kind members, should we not stay with FM, providing we meet the legal criteria and do all the reporting and everything else like that? So we're looking forward to becoming a DAB presence as well, or with the FM limitations and the broadcast of the cows. If we need that platform to get to DAB, I think we've got to stick with it.
I will send anybody who's interested this proposal that they've sent us. If you promised not to pass it on to anybody else, and also to respond back to me, if that helps. This is the whole proposal that they sent to us, plus an update. But I need it back. I'm going to need it back in about 24 hours. So anybody who wants it, just send me an email. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Okay, so moving forward, we're going to put some ideas in an email, send it out to everybody, ask for a comment or a yes, no on each thing. But
yeah, please email it out, guys. Just get it out there. Let's get it back to you ASAP.
Yeah.
Could you make sure that it's really clear about the potential need for FM in order to go for DAB? Because I didn't get that at all.
I didn't to start with either, Helen. No. But that's fine.
I didn't know it either.
Well, I will check. I will check it out because I was unclear as well. But I will put that in with the email that I send you with the proposal in it. I'll clarify.
I mean, the major cost of FM is the license, isn't it? So
it's £850 a year is what the FM license.
So if you're still with Ofcom, you're still paying presumably more, but that license, does that covers you for FM?
The license is covered by the multiplex company. The DAB license is covered by the multiplex company.
What about
it doesn't cost us any more in licensing.
But that's in addition to the FM license?
Yeah, but we don't pay for it. The multiplex company pays.
License?
the multiplex company has the DAB license and they pay for that. So all we have to pay is the FM license, as we do now. If somebody's already offered to pay that for us, Nick, then we
So
may.
in essence, can I just be clear for the guys who really keen to stay on FM, and I get their arguments completely. So if we do go down SSDAB route, that would be in addition to, not instead of FM. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
Right. So we're not going off FM
Yeah.
then, and that's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Well, we haven't been off, just to clarify that one, we haven't actually been offered a new FM license yet.
Oh, I get that. Yeah. Well,
it's all according.
If we take up this SSDAB license offer straight away, but then lose the FM license, does that mean we then lose the new SSDAB license as well?
Well, it means it's going to be difficult for us to join the not-for-profit CIC that the DAB wants to set up, because we don't have a basis to do it without an FM license. But I can clarify that, and but it may not be that, it may not be free. I'm just going to share this for a second. Can you see that?
No.
That's their sort of deadline to us.
We're not going to know about FM before then, are we?
Well, I don't know. We could know tomorrow. You just don't know, do you? I'm going to go back to them and say, look, we have a real problem making a decision here because we still haven't heard from Ofcom. So what, you know?
Yeah, I would say the approach would be, I believe Julian's got the relationship with Ofcom, and the thing to do would be to saying, you haven't said no. You know, the world's moving on at a pace. This is what we're now doing in anticipation of getting the FM license. Speak now, forever hold your peace.
Well, that's what they're saying to us.
It's worth a try to get in touch to try and get an answer.
Yeah, no, I will. I mean, I talk to them every day.
Oh, I see. Right. Sorry, I didn't.
And they are, you know, we've all got to do a little bit of work on this, but they're going to, once we've got the license, and we won't hear about that for a while, then they get grant funding to get the transmitters and all the hardware sorted out, and they take on the operating costs. As you can see in that.
For them, do we stay as Froome FM, Rupert? What do they get out of this?
Yeah, well, we're Froome FM, and we're also on DAB. Summer Valley FM did it.
Yeah, but what's in it for Muxnet?
Well, they have a chunk of DAB real estate that they can sell on to other people as well.
So we could get sold on to another. Yeah, no, I'm just thinking it through.
They can sell that space, that DAB space, to other people to run other little stations as well, commercial ones. But they're doing this for the community stations. I know it does sound unlikely, but it's true.
The important thing with DAB is the sites, the transmitter sites.
Yeah, well,
they'll choose where the larger commercial stations can't actually get into, like they did with Summer Valley. I mean, they've got several major stations running off the Summer Valley transmitter, and Summer Valley do very nicely, thank you. But
I found that site.
Sorry?
I found that site.
I know.
I drove around the countryside until I saw it.
So, you know, that's how it works. So the small part of it will be the community station, but 90% of the transmitter array will be commercial DAB.
Yeah, but that's how they can afford to do it. And they even said, you know, you may even make some money out of this.
I'm just answering Helen's point. I get your point entirely, Helen. My only thought would be, if it kind of has to be a leap of faith in a way, doesn't it?
Well, all it is at the moment for this is to get the license. which costs 125 quid. So if anybody wants to put that money up, we can just apply for it. I mean, we can just put that into the pot. I'll send you this. Just have a think about it. It's not a lot of money. And if we are all quite keen to expand the coverage, both in this area and a bit further afield, then I think we should consider it.
Rupert, just to make life a little bit easier, I'll put up the 125 quid if the world wants to go down this road.
That's very generous of you. Are we up for that?
Phil, thank you. Thank you, Phil.
All right. Well, let me talk to you, Phil, about that separately then. If that's okay. You can do that, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. And Julian, back to you, really.
Yeah, I think we should. Well, I'm going to wrap up because I feel crap actually. But yeah, I mean that's great, and we've had some good conversations. But let's not forget the main focus of the meeting is we're struggling to pay with what we already have. So, but I mean, DAB obviously sounds very exciting, and I hope we can do that. But yeah, so I say it's all about not just leaving this meeting and forgetting about things. We need some action, and if I say the next step will be for us to send an email around with some options and see what people are prepared to do. But yeah, in the meantime, if you can, any way you can think of bringing some funds in, then we would be very grateful, certainly. So yeah, thanks for that. I haven't really got anything else. Anyone?
I'd like to thank Jeremy, Julian.
Thank you, Julian. Thank you, Rupert. Thank you, Julian.
This meeting. And I hope you get better soon, mate.
Yeah.
And thanks to Phil and to Anthony and to everybody who's just offered, and Nick, for your contributions, which are going to be really valuable and will help us move on, definitely. So just keep at it, everybody, and we'll get something back to you very quickly.
Thank you to all the directors for your hard work. It's very, very much appreciated.
Yep.
Hear, hear.
Yes, I'd like to second that.
Hear, hear.
Big thank you to Rupert. Thanks for all the work, and Julian. Cheers.
I mean, just to say one thing. One of my sort of things I tried to do as chairman was to improve communications between us all, and it's just proved tonight. We've just had a frank conversation, and we've already had some offers of help and everything. So unfortunately, I lost motivation a bit when everything was going wrong. I just wanted to kind of crawl in a hole and not talk to anybody. But yeah, well, thanks for that. I'll try and get that back on board again and keep a sort of regular communications out, because obviously, like I say, we've just asked for help tonight, and already we're getting some, so that's really great. So
can I just say,
everybody, for that.
Can I just say, we've all been down that rabbit hole of things going horribly wrong and it haunting us. I know Helen has, I know I have, and I know Terry has. It was just your turn, mate. But keep smiling, and nearly always we survive.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's great to see you again, Phil.
Right.
Julian, is it best to email you if we've got any just like thoughts or just like comments on this meeting, just to give it back to you, or should it go somewhere else?
No, that's fine. You can email me.
Cool.
As I say, I spend most of my week forwarding emails to relevant people. So
okay, perfect.
That's fine.
Just along with Phil, I mean, I've been here for a very long time. I was a lot younger when I joined here in 2000. And what was it, Phil? 2007, 2006, and that.
You're quite young now.
So yeah, it's been I've seen a lot of changes in terms of the membership and stuff, and just to put my thoughts into an email would be great. But it's been really good to actually have this meeting tonight and see some faces and put some names and those faces together. It's been great.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Dave.
Right, wrap it up then.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thanks to everyone for coming.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks all. See you later.
Thank you, Julian.